Welcome back, everyone, to Conspiracy or Not, Here We Come. I thank you all that are tuning in, and I really wish I could see who all was tuned in. Sadly, I cannot operate a Hangout and watch the chat. It's the chat that causes my CPU to go into conniptions. So I stay away from the chat now. And so if you have questions, comments, or anything, I will not see them. I will not be able to answer them. And I apologize for that, but this old computer just ain't holding it together. Tonight we have back with us Annie Logical, or as her new channel is called, Logical Annie. And she is here to discuss the horrific encroachment of 5G. And why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Annie, and get us started?
Yeah, sure. Well, hello, everyone. It's really nice to be back on YouTube, actually. I have missed it, I must say. And obviously, hi to Amy and Aaron. It's great to see people have carried on, you know, and so I've sort of come back on YouTube after about a year away, I would say. Obviously, I was one of the channels that got removed, and they had the big cull of channels. I was one that went. And a lot of people might remember my videos then. I used to do a lot of research on false flags and sort of dissect them. And then I started realizing that a lot of the false flags were actually showcasing one way or another the 5G technology. So that's when I turned my attention to 5G. Now, I have got a website that I've been running now for a while, and it's called, you can find it, Annie Logical Uncensored, and it's at www.vigili.org. So you can go and check out all the stuff that I've been doing on there. So I'll just fill you in on why I decided to return to YouTube and make a new channel. I think the best way I could do that, really, would be to share with you the video that I uploaded probably about a week ago or something. And the reasons behind what occurred. So basically what happened was I decided to start a 5G mass action campaign. And we got leaflets together, we sorted the leaflet out, and we've been sort of sharing the leaflet now in and around the UK. I'm sorry that it's not in America, but it's basically for the UK. So after doing that for a while, we've managed to get maybe 150 different areas around the UK involved in participating. Well, people basically get the leaflet and then they go around their community.
You're kind of cutting out there, Annie. I don't know whether it's because you're not close enough to the mic or what.
Oh, that's strange, because the mic's right next to me.
Now that sounds pretty good, right there.
Is that better?
Yes, yes.
Right, okay. So anyway, just to reiterate, I've come back onto YouTube as Logical Annie. I started the mass action campaign, which has been ongoing since March. There's about 150 areas around the UK involved. And the reason why I came back onto YouTube, because I was getting called a 5G denier. And what really bothered me about this was the fact that the person who was calling me a 5G denier had done a bit of research on him, and he wasn't all that he was cracked up to be. So if I may, Amy, I'd first like to share the video that I made last week, the first one back on YouTube, just to give people the rundown of what exactly I'm talking about. So is that okay with you?
Oh, absolutely. I'm expecting it.
Right, great. So give me a second. And we'll go with that.
Okay.
You've seen this on YouTube. I'm analogical.
Okay, you stop sharing screens there. Now
Yeah.
all I've got is your icon.
Oh, okay then. Just give me a sec. I've done something wrong. Oh. Oh dear.
Uh-oh, what happened?
Oh, typical, isn't it? Typical. Let me just. Oh,
There you go. We've got a screen share.
what the heck is that?
That's what it does when you're looking at the Hangout, and don't ask me why, but it does that.
Right,
Now
okay.
you unscreen shared.
Am I? Oh gosh.
No, just hit the screen share. When you get that thing, go to the tab that has
Yeah.
the video.
Right. Okay. Do you want to cancel that's on the screen or share it?
Well, right now, all I see is your icon still. You're not sharing your screen again.
Right. Okay. So
Gotta
share.
share the screen. There you go.
Right.
There,
Okay.
that's good. And then, yeah, awesome. Perfect.
Put
Crank
it
the sound up and let's rock it.
Facebook friends. Now I'm making this video and I've made it this effort to get back onto YouTube because I feel like it's important that I defend myself from those who are claiming on YouTube and Facebook that I'm actually a 5G denier. Have you got any idea what it feels like to work solidly for a whole year on an issue that you really feel strongly about, such as I do about 5G technology, to be called publicly a 5G denier? So I'll just give you a little bit of information about the mass action campaign where the leaflets are concerned. There's a leaflet that's available. You can either download it from my website, Illogical Uncensored, or what's been happening is people have been contacting me and asking me to send them a bunch of leaflets. So I'll send them a pile of leaflets and then they'll go around in their areas with schools or meetings, whatever, neighborhoods, just to let people know. Now, all the information on the back of the leaflet is everything you need to know about basics about 5G, and it also gives a link back to my website so that if anybody's actually interested, they can go there and get more in-depth material about 5G. And their website also has been updated to show, the companies that are involved, the testing that's gone on, what the government agencies are up to in different countries. Although the leaflet is only for the UK, I'm sorry about that. So that's what I've been doing, full on busy for the past year. So far, it's been really successful. There's been about 40 areas that have been involved in the UK. That's not including the people who've downloaded leaflets themselves from my website. Or many people have sent me emails to tell me that they've done that themselves. So this is something, this is a grassroots level campaign. I don't think there's anybody else in the UK who's doing anything like it. So I don't think I should be called a 5G denier to you. When I first started campaigning, I was in touch with a man called Mark Steele before he started doing all his videos and getting himself media attention. And when I got the leaflet campaign going, he told me he had this political group called Save Us Now, and I believed in him. I made sure that the leaflet not only had the link to my website, but it also had the link to his website political group. And that, after a while, after a few months, he had about, I don't know, half a dozen interviews. He never seemed to want to mention the 5G leaflet campaign. So I asked him about it, in which he replied that he didn't have time. So I thought, okay, fair enough. But it would have been nice, for people who, whatever actions we can do, and we can advertise each other. But anyway, so not shortly after that, I got in contact with, I wanted some experts in the field of EMF and radio frequencies. So I got in touch with a group called BEMRI. Now, BEMRI is affiliated to PowerWatch, and PowerWatch is probably the oldest known anti-EMF website and group of people that are going in the UK. They're very famous people as far as this information goes. In fact, Alistair Phillips, who's one of the people involved with BEMRI and PowerWatch, is one of the 230 scientists who signed the moratorium on 5G, which is making the headlines everywhere. So we can see these are experts. Now, when I contacted them, I did ask them about what they thought about the Gateshead lampposts emitting 5G. And what they told me in no uncertain terms is that they had made contact with Mark Steele and that they had told him that the equipment that he used wasn't sufficient to test 5G in the first instance. Now, I have made a video about that, which is on my website. They also offered to go to Gateshead with the proper equipment and test the lamppost. Mark Steele called them names, he called them charlatans, he said they didn't know what they were talking about. This is people who've got 60 years of experience, by the way. He said they didn't know what they were talking about, refused to have anything more to do with them, as they did with him. Now, I want to know once and for all whether the lampposts in Gateshead were emitting 5G. So I arranged for a resident, actually two different residents, one of them in the Gateshead area, to go along with the BEMRI group and to test the very same lampposts that he was making videos about. And what they found, that none of them were emitting 5G. I am sharing with you above the testimony of the person who went with this group to test the lamppost, and you can read it for yourself. Now, there is research and an article on my website in which that I've shown that a company has been given a contract to allow them to supply hundreds of thousands of lampposts across the UK that are 5G enabled with other partners, and that once the 5G spectrum is auctioned off, they will be used as 5G, but they are not as yet used publicly. And that's also not to suggest that there isn't any 5G testing already going on, because if you look at my website, I've documented it as much as possible where and when all this 5G testing is actually going on. But given that the experts with the proper tools for the job and the proper technology could come along and test the 5G in the lampposts in Gateshead and prove that they're not 5G, then it stands to reason that they're not 5G, and that does not make me a 5G denier. In the area where these tests were carried out, there was mobile masts surrounding the area, huge masts, and the equipment that he used was also not for a one-directional equipment. It was picking up from all directions, and also if he'd been using a phone, this would have also interfered with the readings that he got. Of course, when the lady who went with the experts asked him this, he called her desperate for saying it. People should also be aware that the Steele brothers have got smart technology equipment being sold on the Israeli Homeland Security website, as well as a UK defence supply chain, which is affiliated with Innovate UK. Now, Innovate UK are the organisation that are pushing for 5G. Personally, my beliefs are such that the accumulation of facts, which include refusing to share any 5G actions and being willing only to recruit people to a political group called Sun as the only way forward in stopping 5G, the denial of experts who've got substantial knowledge of the subject, they've been speaking about this for decades, ridiculing bona fide activists like myself, becoming hysterical towards officials, which obviously alienates and discredits the campaign, and having ties to the UK defence suppliers and the Israeli Homeland Security cannot bode favourably for their authenticity, and I'll leave you to make up your own mind. So thank you very much for listening. I'm Annie Logical, and catch you soon. Right. Oops.
You're doing okay.
Right.
Oh,
so,
now I'm echoing.
Yeah, there is an echo, isn't there?
Yeah. Now we're okay. We're good now.
Right.
I cannot believe that anyone would call you a 5G denier. I mean, that floored me when I saw that. It's like, what? Obviously somebody's out there to disparage you deliberately.
Yes, and I've had quite a few people sort of, contact me with messages of saying I've had a lot of support. I've had a lot of support from people, but I've also had the odd few people who are saying, "You weasel, you're a government agent, you're this and you're that."
Oh yeah.
And we all get that. And if you go to the if you go to my YouTube channel, and if you actually look at the conversations that have been going on with this, the person talking in the conversations is actually the twin brother of this guy. The two of them are both playing the same game, and like he had absolutely nothing at all to say. Well, where's your proof that I'm some sort of a government agent? And he just basically insults everyone. Anybody who actually asks him a question or says, well, why didn't you let the experts test the lamppost, is called a 5G denier. So I thought it's really important that people realize that, because this person has managed to get on mainstream news, including the BBC and radio and everything, with his claims that these lampposts are emitting 5G. Now, they've been tested. They're not emitting 5G. The idea is that he wants everybody, like most of these people who are fifth column and, involved in all this gatekeeping, is what they want people to actually follow them. And his idea is that to fight 5G, we should all join his political group, which just so happens to be named Sun. We know the implications of, this sort of the links to these sort of things.
Yeah.
I mean, Save Us Now. I mean, what sort of a political group called Save Us Now? Most pathetic name you could imagine.
Yes. Yeah? Not let's save ourselves, but somebody else come along and save us.
Yes. I mean, they're more or less mocking people, without people realizing it. And so he's got his Save Us Now group, and they're actually saying that they're going to fight 5G. Well, people know full well that to start a political group in the UK and to get anywhere, even though we know that these what they're all about, all these groups it's the same shit with a different rapper, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So this person wants everyone to join his political group, and then they're going to fight 5G by going. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's going to take years to establish, and we're getting 5G rolled out from now on in. And
really,
it's already rolled out. How is a political group going to stop that?
That's a good question.
So, it's an obvious attempt to gatekeep the 5G campaign and get people to join this. Don't worry about it. Don't you worry about 5G, because we'll save you now. We will save you now. Yeah?
Yes.
And the groups also, I mean, the website, if you go and look at the website called Save Us Now, it's absolutely the most half-arsed attempt at research and sharing information about 5G. It's got practically nothing on there. It couldn't be less involved if they tried. As soon as you go on it, there's a big sign pops up saying, "Oh, donate now." So much a month.
Yes.
And for what? For nothing. And these two people have made it. Two brothers, these Steele brothers, have made it their goal to ridicule me at every single opportunity that they could get. So I think it's payback time, really.
Yes. Yeah. I figure anybody that's out there jumping on you as some kind of denier of this 5G, when we know that you have done an awful lot of work showing the major problems with this technology.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
they have to have an agenda if that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
I just cannot explain it any other way.
Exactly. And everybody went on there to say, why are you calling the person who's running the campaign in the UK a 5G denier? And he just goes, well, you must be a 5G denier as well then. So, you know, I'm just making people aware of this group, of these people. And we'll leave it at that. And, you know, hopefully they'll get their just deserves anyway.
Yep. So
we'll move on anyway.
Yeah, perhaps we can go into some of the specifics of just what's wrong with this technology.
Absolutely, yeah. So when people ask, you know, what is 5G? Well, obviously, it's an umbrella of various technologies that cover many things. We've got the Internet of Things, which is connecting devices to the Internet, such as fridges, lighting and cameras. Is this sound all right, Amy? Because it sounds like we're underwater to me.
No, yeah, it sounds pretty good to me. I can hear you at any rate.
Okay. So we've got, you know, all these devices connected to the internet. We've got autonomous cars, we've got AI, we've got augmented and virtual reality and mobile connections. And obviously the mobile connections, they're all being hailed as the greatest breakthrough in technology, aren't they?
Oh, yeah.
And they're all using these new frequencies, which are different wavelengths to what we've been previously used to. So I think, firstly, to understand the dangers of these frequencies, we first got to be made aware of the dangers posed by electromagnetic radiation in the first place, you know, as it stands already. So the health implications and the subsequent results of using this technology. Now, there's a pamphlet that's been created by BEMRI, which is the British Electromagnetic Research Initiative. These were the people who I got contacted because I wanted experts to talk about, you know, go into the details of 5G.
Right.
And they've brought this leaflet out, and what they say is, and I'll quote from it, many people are now aware that electromagnetic fields can be detrimental to health, and for decades, evidence has existed showing that electromagnetic fields can damage all biological systems. The human body, which contains 2/3 salty water, is an excellent conductor of these fields. Electrical signals carried through the airwaves can create interference with our body's finely tuned biological circuits, especially in the head area. The awful truth is that we are living in a vast smog of electromagnetic pollution, which is growing denser with every day that passes. Many more children and adults than previously recorded now suffer a range of health problems, including cancer and brain damage, that can often be linked to electromagnetic pollution. These disturbances may include headaches, insomnia, short-term memory loss, palpitations, skin disorders, noises in the ear, which often worsen when normal background noise is low, as well as more serious conditions. However, people may find these symptoms lessen or disappear when they are in a different surroundings, away from home or work. We therefore need to identify the danger zones in the home and the workplace and the outside environment. During the day, most of us move around in and out of these hotspots, and we need to be aware of the risks, especially in places where we spend much time, such as in bed or sitting in our chairs at work. Now, you might have heard of the sick building syndrome, where people suffer from headaches, eye strain, dry eyes, sore throat, tiredness, aching limbs, and other flu-like symptoms as a result of being bombarded with electromagnetic, chemical, or other kinds of pollution within the home, the office, or the factory environment. A report in May 2002 in the New Scientist informed us of a development of a weapon using intense electromagnetic fields producing effects ranging from disruption of short-term memory loss to total loss of control of voluntary bodily functions. We already have this kind of weapon in the mobile phone. Scientists have discovered that microwave radiation from mobile phone transmissions affects the brain in a process known as heat shock, and it's an effect similar to heating the brain but with no actual rise in temperature. Heat shock causes the body to release proteins which can damage or kill brain cells, and the geneticist Dr. David D. Pomeroy told how tests showed exposure for an hour to mobile phone radiation and double the heat shock protein in cells. And Dr. Alan Brees of Bristol University revealed the same radiation causes vessels to dilate, thus creating a rush of blood to the head. Other studies have found that microwaves also weaken the blood-brain barrier, protects the brain against the bloodstream infection, and other research shows that they have specific effects on brain cells and brain function that can lead to brain degenerative diseases such as cancer and weakening of the immune system. And it's been found that many lymphocytic leukemia sufferers live close to power lines, underground main cables and transformers, or spend long periods of time close to equipment that emits this kind of radiation. Myeloid cases appear to be clustered around radio and TV masts. Such findings suggest that 50 hertz and radio frequencies, which include mobile phone frequencies, can affect living systems in various ways. The power levels from mobile signals are also known to increase 4 to 6-fold after the rain has fallen and during periods of low cloud. And some who suffer tinnitus and live close to mobile phone masts have found their condition is noticeably worse during this kind of weather. Now, health risks also arise from digital cordless phones. The base unit that cradles the handset and the functions as a transmitter and receiver, it produces an electrical field that is actually greater than that of a mobile phone because it radiates even when the phone's not being used. It's like a mobile phone non-stop. These phones should never be put in bedrooms or close to where people sit. Better still, just dump them. Along with baby alarms, which also emit dangerous EMF radiation. As the very young and are more vulnerable, and cots and beds should always be placed well away from electrical wiring and appliances, and from metal objects such as radiators, which act like antennas for microwave and other radiation. Now, Russia is against the use of cell phones by youngsters less than 16-year-old, and they're now forbidden in French schools. Other high-risk devices include microwave radiation from Wi-Fi, WLAN, WiMAX, wireless interactive, whiteboards, burglar alarms, using microwave detectors. These are all equivalent to have a mobile phone mast permanently emitting life-threatening pulse microwaves within the classroom. Tests are carried out, are called for the Health Protection Agency, the HPA, reveal that ultraviolet beams from projectors used with electronic whiteboards in most schools could damage the eyes. The viewer's peripheral retina can be overexposed even when they're not looking directly at the projector's apparent light source, or damaged if they look into the beam from a few yards away for 20 seconds. Other radiation effects noted in schools include short-term memory loss, headaches, nosebleeds, hyperactivity, and lack of concentration. Now, suspicion that electrical fields cause respiratory illness dates back to the 50s, when it was found that placing asthmatics in areas with low electrical fields got rid of their symptoms. A new study by scientists at Imperial College in London suggests that electrical fields from computers, televisions, and other everyday items make people more prone to asthma, influenza, and other respiratory diseases. This research provides additional academic backing for campaigners' demands for precautionary measures to be taken against the thickening electro-smog we are being exposed to from sources such as mobile phones and their masts, Wi-Fi systems, and household electrical devices. As the amount of electro-smog has multiplied many times over in recent years, science has increasingly indicated that it can cause a wide range of ailments, from respiratory diseases to difficulties in concentrating, from sleeplessness to cancer, a matter that campaigners are very keen to publicise. And the cell phone industry controls the policy arm of the cell phone science by being a major contributor of research funds and by making sure that its personnel are placed on safety standard committees and even the World Health Organization's EMF study projects. Thus, all the relevant policy bodies are led by cell phone personnel and consultants, or have a majority of them on their staff. This is even true of scientific organizations. The Bioelectric Magnetic Society, which should be made up of independent scientists, has a large contingent of members who work for the cell phone companies or are paid consultants. And in the UK, the HPA is funded roughly half from the industries it represents and half from the government. So all of its associates have a financial interest in recommending the product, even if it is proven to be unsafe. Every single spokesperson or on safety issues is linked in one way or another with the communications industry. Now, during a court case in 1998, Dr. McKinley, a senior scientist with the National Radiological Protection Board, explained that their data on tissue conductivity had been supplied to them by Microwave Consultants Limited, which is on the payroll of a cell phone company. It transpired that virtually none of their documents were peer-reviewed and that the Dr. McKinley himself had not authored any experimental studies. In fact, he admitted that he had no expertise in biology. So the industry also tries to control the science by controlling the interpretation of findings and how they're presented, if they're ever presented at all to the public. And many corporations have their own team who travel to all the meetings, whose job it is to create negative spin on presentations that point to possible harm or suggest caution. Not only are the science labs, government officers and science interest groups associated with cell phone science becoming puppets of the phone industry, but the media are so heavily influenced by the phone companies that it's becoming increasingly difficult to disseminate impartial information and comments, even though they may be of long-term benefit to the industry and they are vital for public health. So we can see electromagnetic radiation power density increases weekly as more people use electronic equipment, that we are bombarded with an accumulation of radiation from satellites, power supplies, radar, broadcast antennas, in fact, all electrical systems and appliances. And most people are becoming electrosensitive, and most are unaware of what's really attacking their body. Doctors are generally in the dark about the effects of EMF pollution, partly because they follow government guidelines and receive no training on these issues, although the BMC, British Medical Council, must be aware of the problem because it's discussed in the UK Medical Journal. At the moment, there's really not much cure apart from avoidance, though there is the opportunity to develop systems that could be of true benefit to us all in terms of health and performance, if they even listen to us. But obviously, they're only interested in the money, aren't they?
Yeah, the money issue. You know, this is a number of things that are done poorly for everybody because of money is phenomenal. You know, this is why I want to get rid of this stuff.
Yeah, no. And I'd suggest that anybody go look at your videos, because you know, some of the stuff you say in there is absolutely vital for people to listen to. So anyway, so the studies, there are studies and there is proof that electromagnetic radiation is a danger. That's already been ignored by government agencies, utility companies, telecommunications companies, and those people who are responsible for setting the standards. There's enough evidence to prove that microwave radiation is carcinogenic. It's already been noted as a class 2B carcinogenic by the International Agency on Cancer, who are the scientific arm of the World Health Organization. And we know that all government agencies have been compromised worldwide with studies paid for by the very industries that stand to profit. Now, I've got on my website, when you go and check out my website, I've got absolutely thousands of peer-reviewed studies that anyone can go and check out. So this is called, it's labeled as non-thermal radiation, which had its safety classification set in the 80s by the ICNIRP, which is the International Committee of Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection. Now, it excluded any studies that shown the dangers of non-thermal or non-ionizing radiation in favor of industry-led studies.
Imagine that.
Yeah. And all the parameters for non-ionizing radiation were put out before 1988, and that's before the wide-scale rollout of the internet and mobile phones, and the threshold was decided by physicists and engineers with very little input at all from the medical professions. Now, like I said, my website contains documentation which has been conducted by thousands of peer-reviewed studies that go back decades. Even back in the early days in the 80s, when an industry insider named Dr. Michael Rapaccioli ignored any studies that indicated the dangers of the non-thermal radiation. He led the ICNIRP, and he in favor of the industry-led studies. And the same holds true today. All these years later, we are being exposed now 20,000 times greater now than 40 years ago. So despite the fact that electromagnetic radiation has caused huge health effects over the years, we are now being told that this next 5th generation of this technology is here, and that we should all embrace it as the next step in a technology already responsible for some of the most serious crimes against humanity. Right from the start, the safety standards of non-ionizing radiation have been deliberately excluded as a danger, and only thermal radiation has been regulated. So if we lived in a world that had concerns for its citizens, then those in positions of power would be eager to listen to what others with no financial interest. So why should we put our trust in agencies who've had time and time again have discarded and completely ignored the facts, even down to our own detriment? So the first identified study that's shown that pulsed radio frequency radiation causes significant chromosome aberrations was in 1959 by Heller and Pinto. Blood samples taken from the staff of the US Embassy in Moscow, who had been chronically exposed to a low-intensity radar signal, reported significant increases in chromosome damage. That's also reported by Tonaskia in 1966. A group of workers exposed to radar-produced microwaves in 1990 was shown to have chromosome aberrations in blood samples. That's another study on my website by Gary Ferroccia. And in 1991, the same man exposed Chinese hamster cells to 7.7 gigahertz of microwave radiation, and is shown significant, highly elevated chromosome aberrations. The consistency of the time exposure and survival assay of non-thermal exposure levels confirmed that it was from a non-thermal effect. In March 1999, in the edition of Microwave News, it was reported that Dr. Tice and Hook and McCree showed chromosome damage from all cell phones tested. Now, biologically, our brains, our hearts and cells use electromagnetic signals, charged ions, voltage-gated ions, channels, and ion-regulated gap junctions, all of which can be interfered with by external electromagnetic fields in subtle but vital ways that affect our health. Any substance that damages DNA or chromosomes or changes your genetic activity is genotoxic because it's acting on the same material, the DNA molecule. Genotoxic substance is mutagenic, carcinogenic, and teratogenic. It causes cancers. It interferes with our reproductive organs. It can cause neurological damage, cellular damage, like I said, DNA and chromosome damage. Our hearts are bioelectrical organs, as we can see by the ECG showing regular electrical pulses, and interference with those pulses leads to heart disease and heart attacks. It therefore stands to reason that electromagnetic radiation can cause heart problems. Many studies have shown that radio frequency microwave radiation and ELF fields cause increased DNA strand breakages. Studies include Goldsmith studies from 95, 96, 97, 91, and 91, sorry. So we can see that all these studies are performed by experts who are not affiliated with the industry. And funnily enough, when they've done the studies, the studies done by those not affiliated with the industry have shown in 70% of the studies that electromagnetic radiation has adverse effects, whilst industry-led studies show the exact opposite, with 70% claiming no adverse effects. In 2002, Dr. Denkouli wrote a paper on epidemiology and shown that electromagnetic fields count for 40% of all miscarriages. We have also a document on emfscientists.org that gives the names of 230 doctors and scientists who have studied wireless radiation and its neurological symptoms and have called for a moratorium on the dangers of this technology. So, you know, the studies are there, the information's there. We already know that this electromagnetic frequencies and radio frequencies are a danger to our health and to our environment. So now they're hoping to garner backing for 5G. They're trying to promote 5G, the next generation, and they're saying, oh, it's going to promote faster downloads, better connectivity, and this is one of the reasons why they're bringing this technology, and this is the sort of the thing they're going to use, especially for the young people.
The soft kill approach.
Yeah. So they've got everybody addicted to the phones. So now it's like they said, well, we need more bandwidth now because there's too many people using these phones, which is all an absolute lie, by the way.
Yes.
It is. So anyway, we've got proof now that this is nonsense. First of all, in the UK, we've got the ex-director of Ofcom. Now, Ofcom's the agency that have made. They're the ones who regulate the communications industry. Yeah. So this ex-director was called Professor William Webb. Now, he stated publicly that 5G is no guarantee of faster downloads or even better connectivity. Ofcom are the agency that have made trial licenses available for 5G testing. Testing that has taken place in many countries and also in many areas around the UK. They identified, if you go onto the Ofcom website, they identified 700 megahertz, 3.4 gigahertz and 26 gigahertz as early 5G spectrum bands. So people should definitely go onto their website and go and check out what they've got to say. So they're planning to auction off the 700 megahertz in 2019. These high-frequency millimeter waves will be used to support 5G applications. It states on the website that 5G can be rolled out using 2, 3, and 4G, and it also states that tests that have been done with King's College, Vodafone, and Ericsson was in the 3.5 gigahertz spectrum, and that a company called Akiva have tested in the 28 gigahertz spectrum. Now, I will discuss Akiva, their role in this later on. So the difference between what we've been using and what we will be using if they have their way is staggering. Cordless phones, Wi-Fi, and smart meters operate on the 2.4 gigahertz frequency, which is the frequency that water molecules vibrate on their axis. And our bodies, being 70% water, are going to be affected and damaged by that. If something's 2 gigahertz, that's 2 billion electromagnetic waves hitting the body per second. So if we are bombarded with between 24 and 90 gigahertz, which is the bandwidth spectrum that they're talking about using, that's 90 billion electromagnetic waves per second. That will be catastrophic for our bodies and life on the planet altogether. And the extraordinary truth about this is that technology exists that negates 5G. And I'm going to share the link with that right now. You just give me a second.
Certainly. Yeah, this 5G stuff is evil. It's psychopathic that they are bringing this out. There's no excuse for it other than an effort to make us sick and miserable and mess with us. I mean, there's no excuse for it.
Are you seeing the screen?
Not yet, hon.
Right. Okay. Well, I need to.
Yeah, you need to do the share screeny thing.
Yeah. Oh, hang on. Right, can you see it now?
Not yet. There it goes. We got it.
Okay, so I just want to share this with you, right? This is called TIM's industry groundbreaking advanced mobile data compression and acceleration software. And there's the shortened version for it there. Now, I'll just scroll up here, right? This software negates the 5G story, and the cell phone companies know this. This software advancement promises to overshadow in a dramatic, cost-effective way the decisions for mobile companies to purchase additional bandwidth, install more cellular towers, and or expensive hardware upgrades, okay? Because what they're trying to say is that they need to have all this for because they need more sorry, I lost my train of thought. Right, so they need to increase the end user and they need to have more bandwidth. Now, this company here, TIM's industry groundbreaking advance, this is a compression acceleration software, right? That this software that they've got does all the things that they claim they need for 5G. Okay.
Oh, geez.
Now it tells you on there, you know, where is it? How does it work? It shows you how it works, right? And it negates the whole need for more towers, small cell towers, more bandwidth, everything. It just completely negates the whole lot. And I suggest that people go and check that out. So this to me is proof that they do not need 5G whatsoever for better connectivity, faster download speeds and all that. It's based on a big lie. That's a big lie. And when you've got people like the ex-director of Ofcom actually coming out and saying there's no guarantee of better connectivity. So I think that people should realize that they are being conned. That's the first thing I'd like to say.
Conned. They're being duped into giving their consent is
Yes.
what it boils down to.
Yeah.
Without being fully informed.
Yes.
So,
Exactly. Right. So we can see that, you know, we don't need the 5G technology at all. It's basically being brought in under a false premise that we need it. Now,
yeah, it's a wolf in sheep's clothing.
yeah. So if we've already got the software advancement that would solve the problem, then why do we need it? You know? Now we've got to realize that
Go ahead.
they're going to try and fill our neighborhoods with small cell towers every few hundred meters. In the UK, the National Infrastructure Committee has written a report stating that every 100 to 300 meters they will need coverage. So they're going to use whatever we've got now. That's why all the lampposts are going to be, they're all fitted so that when they get partners with them, they'll operate on the 5G. And they'll also have to put small cell towers the length and breadth of the country. So, you know, we will become completely saturated. Now, if we have what they are actually claiming that they want us to have, which is 50 billion devices that connect to our homes, streets and cars by 2020, we're looking at, you know, the complete saturation of the whole planet. And this is exactly what they want. This is part of the sustainability agenda.
Sustainability. I mean, if that isn't a misnomer, I don't know what is.
Wherever you see the word, the sustainability program, sustainability, you know that's the buzzword. That's the Agenda 2030. It's the protocol that they've talked about. They've been written about it for so many years, and so many people have said it for so long, is that they have, you know, their plans for the future are that they want to depopulate the planet, okay?
Yep.
They want to down to as many, you know, as many as they deem to be enough for them.
Well,
and then
they want us down to a controllable level where they can control our every blink.
Exactly. Every move. Now, I'll go into this a bit as well, because I did do some videos where I've shown that my research has shown that all the false flags that have occurred have all been connected with them testing of the 5G on different levels, whether it's communication equipment or services. We'll share that video with.
You're cutting out again. You're cutting out again there, dear. Can you
hear me now?
That's better.
Right. So we know there's been no long-term studies. Oops.
No. None.
There's been no long-term studies whatsoever on millimeter wave technology and how it affects our physiology in the long term. None whatsoever. But they don't care about that, you see, because that doesn't matter, because you never mind about that. Like the Tom Wheeler of the FCC said, you know, we're not going to let regulators stand in our way because there's money to be made, and that's damn important, you know. And but the thing is, you know, there's more to it than just the money. We know that, you know. Because if it was really
the control,
of course it's a control. They've got the mechanism for a control, spying, and then a weapon all rolled into one, right? So they've got to be in one way or another, and the way to do it is to claim that, you know, we need it for the mobile phones. Well, we can prove that they don't need it for the mobile phones, so that will shoot that right out the water. Now, millimeter wave radiation, like I said, has been described by experts, carcinogenic, neurotoxic, genotoxic. We will see epidemics of brain cancers. Radiation is accumulative. So the pulsing of this technology will affect us even further, affecting our brain developments, especially affecting pregnant women, kids, and the immune compromised, which is basically the majority of people, because most people are deficient in all the essential vitamins and minerals that we need to function fully anyway.
Yeah.
Now, we've got a natural electromagnetic pulse coming from the south to the north, which has been interrupted because of the false electromagnetic floor, which interrupts our natural intuitive abilities, whilst transmitters are also causing cancer alleyways. Now, the natural resonance, the Schumann resonance, peaks at just under 8 millihertz. These fatal frequencies interrupt the balance, and it will affect it will affect us on so many levels. It will affect fertility. It will penetrate the skin, the eyes, testes. It will affect the pineal gland. So we won't produce melatonin, which means we won't sleep properly, which means more illness. We know that the electromagnetic waves penetrate the body because they use them in hospitals to heal bones and such things. So we know that they've got the capability, and we know also that bee colonies are collapsing because of the interference from these fields. That's why they're busy building drone bees now. So they're basically tampering with the engines of creation. Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
We also know that 5G is also an umbrella for the AI, which is the blurring of man and machine. They can use brain scanners to identify our thoughts. I mean, turning around and claiming that, to be able to change the channel, the TV channel with your thoughts using one of these smart headsets is a technological breakthrough. I mean, it's madness.
Yeah, I agree.
When their ultimate goal is to exchange consciousness between bodies. They want to use the slow kill on the public, using all the technology that they've got, vaccines, pesticides, pharmaceuticals, you name it. They're going to use whatever they can to depopulate so that they can become immortal themselves, using all this convergent technology that they've got, nanotechnology for molecule-sized machines, robotics, self-modifying sentient machines, genetics with self-replication of manipulated entities, and exceed our human mind with artificial intelligence. And it all starts with the smartphones and the smart meters. Yep. They have to roll out the smartphones and the smart meters to kick this agenda into place. And this AI technology, where the internet is an all-encompassing, all data of every person is stored and assessed, it will be the AI that decides that you're not a worthy subject, and out come the drones. And when you have spy software in your home and in your neighborhood and in your car with the ability to be utilized as a weapon, well, it's basically game over, isn't it?
Yep, absolutely.
So, as far as autonomous cars go, now, first of all, what I'd like to do now is to share the video that I made showing the connection between all the false flags and this technology. And the reason being is because if you notice, a lot of the false flag events involve cars or lorries hitting people.
This is some vehicle that's not autonomous.
So this is one of their this is part of their agenda. So let me just share that with you. It won't be a second. Awesome.
I'm looking forward. Yeah, this 5G stuff gets creepier and creepier the more you learn about it. And yeah, I'd have to say that this, given that they don't need it, but they're pushing it so avidly, is a definite sign that there are psychopaths in control.
Absolutely. Right, so what I need to do is do the share thing.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, wrong one, sorry.
There it goes.
Right. Okay.
You're on there.
Yeah, I'm just going to make sure my get rid of that bit because people don't want to hear that again. In fact, that fit is within. Hello, YouTube. I'm creating this video today to show how far entrenched this 5G technology is within security agencies. I'd like to start by correcting a statement that I made. I believe that the ex-director of the CIA, David Petraeus, coined the phrase the Internet of Things. In fact, that phrase was first used by the founder of the MIT's Auto ID Center in 1999, the same year that the CIA created their company In-Q-Tel, under the then director of the CIA. Right, I'm just going to stop that for a minute. The reason being, it's actually the wrong video. So,
okay.
Just give me
Not
a
a problem.
second.
Not a problem.
Blah, 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 blah. That's showing it right. Have a look. Yes, this is the one. Sorry.
Okay, and you can full screen that too for better viewing.
Yeah. Okay.
There you go.
Hello, YouTube. One of my videos that I created showed that the Parsons Green was a 5G testing exercise. As I pointed out, you have to look at that video. I then said I'd concentrate on 5G research instead of false flag events. So, but I've come full circle, because not only was Parsons Green a 5G testing, but so is every single event that's been reported as a terror attack. This report shows that Las Vegas was partnered with Cisco in June of this year using the 5G technology. It states that smart city technology was being trialed in Las Vegas and discusses testing a pilot area in terms of security in a real-life environment. It also discusses using the testing to prepare for autonomous cars and people profiling. But then the article actually goes on to state that in February 2015, Cisco signed up with the French government to cover Paris, and then just months later we had the Paris attacks, and then signed up to transform Berlin in 2016, and of course then we have the Berlin truck attack. It's definitely all linked. The Brussels reported attack happened in March 2016, which was just months after Brussels Digital Commissioner calls a meeting to the 10 largest to speed up 5G technology. A few months later, Brussels attack is reported. In Manchester, in July 2016, these two phone companies announced that they're trialing out 5G technologies. And then what do we have? The Manchester reported attack. All this testing, this so-called security measures for the 5G technology, it's all coming from the European Union. The European Conference of Networks and Communications in 2015 had a list of speakers. One woman was called Isabel Bacale, who works with Thales Communication and Security, and I will leave a link for you to actually go and have a look at the video. So this woman on behalf of Thales Communication and Security is talking about something called absolute aerial base stations for unexpected events. And the project was outlined as in the aftermath of an emergency or disaster or unexpected event. They talked about our communication infrastructure plays an important part, and the role that absolute was playing was to evaluate communication scenarios for public safety. Another speaker at that event was a woman called Yi Ma of Surrey University, which presented the rescue project, which would provide links on the fly technology for smart communications, of which Thales Security is also involved. And it also should be noted that Surrey University are the university that have been given funding to be pushing this 5G technology also. 5G Infrastructure Association has issued a document which reads on page 13, service continuity during disaster scenarios. A number of technologies are being explored based on the narrative multicast/broadcast capabilities. These latter can offer solutions to thundering herd events, where huge numbers of data and video requests need to be served by 5G networks. The C3 configures different network entities for relay selection, coverage extension, and handover. This reconfiguration enables providing different service priorities to relay to firemen and police under network out of coverage situations in both urban and rural areas. So we can see that all these agencies are all pushing forward with this technology, and also the need for it to be trialled. And this is where the false flags come in. Now, the nature of the 5G technology is such that they have to convince the public that they're in need of protection, because this technology means complete surveillance of the public. That's what a smart city is. And people should think very seriously about the implications of this technology for their health and their lives, because it's essentially, it means smart cities are just surveillance cities forced on us by utility companies, which means higher levels of human illness and disabilities, are facing dangerous levels of microwave radiation. All personal privacy will be lost. There'll be nowhere, including your own home, that isn't an open forum. So you see, they have to create the events claiming them to be terror attacks to test the 5G technology, whilst creating the atmosphere of fear to which people will welcome the very surveillance cities that they're pushing. And even while I was making this video, there was a report that a gunman was holding people hostage in Nuneaton, which just happens to be one of the very 4 areas who have just been given a share of 51 million by the government to test the 5G infrastructure, as in the automated cars. Okay, well, I'll leave that with you folks. I think it's obvious what we're seeing now. And I'll leave the link to all the things I've talked about, and also leave a link to my website, Analogical Uncensored. Thank you for listening. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye.
Truly incredible. I can barely hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, that's much better.
All right, good. Well, so there we have it. You see, they've been using all these false flags, which I have mentioned on several occasions. That it's no coincidence. It's no coincidence that they are going to be using these events for more than one purpose. One is to make people believe that they need surveillance. That's one of the things. The other one is to test the equipment or test wherever it is that they're using. And the third thing is to enable them to bring in this stuff. Like I was talking about autonomous cars. Now, autonomous cars the program was introduced via the Astria program, which began in 2006, which involves 7 companies. The lead company is Thales, alongside Israeli company Elbit Systems. Now, Thales is responsible for autonomous drones, and these companies were paid 1.1 billion by the Department of Defense under the Watchkeeper program. Since 2004, it's been reported that the drones were grounded when 2 of them crashed in Wales, which is in the UK. And so far, 1 has spent a short time in Afghan, whilst the rest have sat in a hangar somewhere. And yet, they've wasted £1.1 billion, but it still doesn't deter them or stop them from being at the forefront of this technology. So this whole idea of progressive new technology is a pissing joke. For instance, the same company, Thales, have been heavily involved with European Commission's many programs to test 5G networks using their live staged events. Many of them include cars or vans, lorries hitting people in terror attacks. Once again, given the autonomous cars as the answer, problem, reaction, solution, they tell us that autonomous cars will prevent such attacks, and declaring that in the UK it will save 30,000 car crashes. Now, what they don't tell you is that driverless cars will rely on powerful radar systems. The preferred frequency seems to be 77 gigahertz. Radiation will have to be at significant levels to detect small moving objects on landscapes. 77 gigahertz is part of the spectrum that is absorbed by the skin, so it will affect our physiology. The transmitter will be inside the car with you, transmitting at close range. There will also be 10 radars and sensors on the outside, spewing radiation in all directions. So thousands of cars spewing out radiation up to 250 meters in the long range will have a drastic effect on humans, plants, and the ecosystem. They'll also rely on cameras. So once the smart city surveillance sets in, they'll know where you go, who you go with, what you're talking about. You could be quite easily locked in, and anything could happen to you in a car. And of course, many people still rely on driving as an income. So this technology, it might well save a few car accidents, but in the long term, it's going to cause adverse health effects that will dwarf the number of car accidents.
Radically, yes.
Yeah.
Radical problems.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next thing the 5G is talking about using is the pulsed waves. Now, we know that 5G will add to our current of radiation to our environment, because they're not claiming that 5G technology is going to just be encompassing everything. They're saying it's going to be overlaying all the other technologies that we've also got. Okay, so we're going to bring another layer of radiation to our environment. Right, we've already talked about the radiation exposure already has public health risks. So higher incidences of everything, cancers, miscarriages, particularly affecting the children and the elderly. And all the studies that have shown how it causes brain damage and all the harmful effects to the environment and wildlife has been shown in declining populations. That's why mobile phones have got warnings saying they should be kept at 9 inches from the body. And that's why cancer clusters are reported near towers, and why our children have an 85% increase in nervous system disorders. 5G technology, with its pulsed waves using ultra-high frequencies, is more damaging, and 25 times more molecules are disturbed. It can displace hydrogen bonds, triggering disease, affecting cell plasma, membranes, DNA, the skin, the brain, reproductive organs, and of course, World Health Organization classified exposure to microwave radiation as possibly carcinogenic. So being bombarded at close range by even more dangerous quantities and the levels of exposure is going to be disastrous for us. Now, there's a thing called a beryllium precursor, right? A famous Norwegian mathematician named Abel called it the invention of the devil. Now, radiation emitted from a phased array radar system is different from other sources because it can penetrate much deeper into the human body. And in a phased array individual, antennas radiate pulses in a specified time sequence in short-term intervals. In the side lobes outside the main beam, the time intervals between the various pulses will be different, and the assembly of pulses can overlap each other in a way that can produce an extremely rapid change in the electromagnetic field. This means the radiation doesn't decay in water, in foliage, and in biological tissue. In these cases, the radio frequency is absorbed within a few centimeters. And if a change is sufficiently rapid, a field called a beryllium precursor is generated. And it's named after the French physicist called Leon Beryllium in 1914. Pulses that produce a beryllium precursor can deliver a significant fraction of their energy deep into the tissue, and this is a totally different field from the radiation addressed in safety exposure standards. Beryllium precaution the brilliant precursor. Now, there was a Dr. Richard Albanese wrote a paper in 1994 describing the four potential for tissue damage due to this brilliant precursor. They include changes in molecules, chemical reactions, effects on membranes, and thermal damage, and the most serious one being membrane effects. Tests were shown in lab experiments that demonstrated this, and because safety standards were set to only include thermal radiation, non-thermal radiation was considered insignificant, and of course the safety standards were set in the first place, like I said, by an industry decider. And the entire industries and government bodies and health agencies support these safety standards, despite the thousands of studies that have since shown how dangerous microwave radiation can be. The most widely accepted view of pulse dispersion is based upon something called group velocity approximation. But this approximation breaks down for pulses with short rise times. Group velocity approximation is based on the idea that the carrier frequency of the pulse dominates the behavior of the pulse. Other frequencies that are present when the pulse enters are assumed to be negligible in comparison, but in reality, the Brillouin principle can become the dominant field. So let's just say a 430 megahertz carrier frequency travels through the brain. The group velocity approximation predicts the pulse's decay very quickly, but with brilliant precursors, the signal is 78 times greater at a depth of 50 centimeters. And because they pulse, they're reflected back and forth inside the skull, resulting in a long propagation distance as well as hotspots due to the beam forming. Now, if anyone wants to read more on this subject, this work began in the 70s at the University of Rochester and Vermont in America, and the computational EM labs. So also Richard Smith in reports from 1998 called dispersive pulse propagation. Like I said, everything that I talk about, you can go onto my website and find all this information out. This is all the stuff that I've saved for other people. So high-speed data signals, which 5G technology is, will form...
You're beginning to break up a little bit again.
Oh, right. So
there you go.
High-speed data signals, which 5G technology is, will form brilliant precursors, making them significantly more to contend with and adding to it our detriment. A United States force scientist named Professor Kurt Augston studied brilliant precursors for 15 years, and he went public about it in 1919. His work was paid for with grants by the US Air Force, and yet they refused to make his research studies public and said that there was no evidence. So that speaks for itself.
Wow.
Right, so now one of the other things that I'd like to talk about is the fact that specifically in the UK, in the UK, the Canadian Pension Fund, which has existed since 1962 and stands at 85 billion, is the largest pension administration in Canada. Went from 85 billion in 2006 to 356 billion in the same year. And it holds a pension fund for 17 million people in Canada. And it's also responsible for the 5G rollout in the UK. Now, the Canadian Pension Investment Board, CPPIB, invests in oil, gas, energy, petrochemicals, infrastructure, communication technology, and real estate in the UK. In fact, they've got more real estate in the UK than in Canada and in the rest of Europe put together. So it's a consortium which includes OMERS. Now, OMERS stands for the Ontario municipal employees retirement system. And the Canadian Pension Plan Investment Board, it holds shares in a list of companies, many of whom have been or are known to be supporters of the Agenda 20, such as Baxter International, who were caught contaminating the swine flu vaccines, CIA-funded companies such as Qualcomm, who are one of the biggest companies involved in microchips, and Israeli telecommunications companies. So the list is available on my website. They also partner with other corporations such as Blackstone. Now, in January 2018, this same organization and Blackstone partnered to buy out Reuters, of which Reuters News is a part, enabling the private equity firms to partner together to further their mission objectives via the media. They're also heavily involved in energy infrastructure assets in many companies, including 7 generation energy companies, which include shale, the fracking companies, shale, hence involvement with fracking.
Yeah.
And they've invested millions. Now, the energy and resource team of this Canadian pension fund is called Real Assets. They've got a 50% stake in Milton Park in the UK, which is a science and technology campus, which is home to many of the biotech research companies, and as well as a spin-out company from Oxford University. Now, Oxford University is the forefront of the 5G research. Now, this OMERS, this Canadian pension fund, right? In 2013, they brought out they basically brought out a company called Civica, which is a digital partner to all the local authorities and councils in the UK, including thousands of schools, 50 universities, 275 healthcare providers, and 75% of blue light services. So Civica Digital are partnering 20 government offices, including the Home Office, the Foreign and the Commonwealth Office, and it also serves the UK Foreign Office. Now, this pension fund, they are responsible for, like I said, for the 5G rollout in the UK. Now, they've also involved in all the smart meters. Arqiva, one of the companies involved, are also a subsidiary of these same companies. They've invested in all the smart meters, the lampposts, and everything that they're planning to put all this technology into. And they're also they're trying to get it made it compulsory for people that they've got to have smart meters in the home. And it is essential for the 5G rollout for people to have smart meters. Okay, it's this company own Arqiva, who are linked to this Canadian pension plan. They also are linked to Samsung, and they held the first field test of 5G technology in 2007 in the UK. They also own the wireless masts. They own most of the British TV and radio infrastructure. And they also bought out Thames Water, which is basically all the water. So this Canadian pension fund have got the claws into everything to do with 5G, and they are right behind all the plans to roll out the 5G, smart meter, smart city, smart everything. So I would like to talk about smart meters for a minute.
Yes, please.
I'm trying to
I just wanted to say I had one thought about the smart meters.
Yeah.
You know, you said that it was mandatory to have them. Well, I think I would be inclined to, when they tried to give it to me, say, I will be happy to have this smart meter if you prove I am subject to the system that thinks it can mandate it to me.
Yes.
Because I don't consent to it.
Exactly. No, that is absolutely brilliant. Yeah, I mean, you know, why should anybody be made compulsory to have anything that they don't want? You know,
absolutely. that's way overstepping any kind of authoritative bounds, really. And, you know, really, I don't see the need of giving anyone authority over me as long as I'm choosing my behavior ethically.
Well, I've looked into the whole, you know, the agenda with the smart meters. Now, they are relying on the public buying into this smart meter thing because, you know, it's not compulsory and people don't have to have it. And I think this is why it's so important at this moment in time that people start making some noise and start saying, actually, no, we don't want that. Because as long as people start refusing them now, they've got no chance to try and make anybody have anything. If people start making noise now, the whole thing would collapse. That's the whole point. You know, the whole point is you can't just sit back and wait for this technology to engulf us. We have to stand up for ourselves and our rights right now when it can. You know, and not give your save us now power and all this bollocks. Excuse my French. But,
no,
you know,
I'm with you.
You know, you can't be expecting these government political groups or anything. You take control of yourself. You take responsibility for yourself now and for your family, not relying on anybody else. Now, as far as smart meters go, there is undeniable evidence that smart meters cause massive changes to the heart. An expert in smart meter microwave transmission power has published a new research showing that, contrary to the official government narrative, the radiation emitted from the smart meters directly interferes with normal heart function. Now, to come to this conclusion, Warren Woodward connected himself to an EKG monitor while lying near an Elster smart meter, which was connected to a high-frequency analyzer that measures microwave frequencies. As it alternated between normal readings of 0.1 and 0.2, a monitor display showed that Woodward's heart patterns were normal and symmetrical. But during the times when it spiked to 139.3, this being the time when the smart meter initiated data transmissions, Woodward's EKG pattern changed dramatically in response. In other words, when the smart meter was not sending high amounts of power, Woodward's EKG readings were normal and natural. But when it kicked into the higher output mode, the changes were massive. Brief periods of alteration to normal heart rhythm aren't much to worry about, but when these irregularities are ongoing, the heart can end up working too hard, resulting in fatigued cardiac function. Now, Dr. Gilberto Leon, a holistic medicine doctor from Arizona, who warns about this, he says that changes to the heart caused by smart meters are anything but symptomless or silent, and that major damage can take place without people even realizing it. That the constant bombardment of microwave radiation from smart meters represents an unnatural sequence of events that we're not programmed to respond to. And he says that long-term exposure to smart meters can be extremely damaging to normal myocardial function. Many of the smart meters attached to people's homes are much stronger than the one that the Woodward tested. Keep in mind that the L-Star smart meter that Woodward tested only transmits about 1/4 of a watt. Other brands like Landis and Jaya Focus, for instance, transmit closer to 1 watt, which is nearly 3 times the output of the Elster brand. So this suggests that these other smart meters are perhaps even more damaging to heart function than the Elster, with potentially far worse health consequences, and especially in people who've already got health conditions. So this guy Woodward, he was a healthy man. He didn't have any pre-existing heart conditions. So the symptoms that he suffered, in other words, were entirely the result of the exposure to the smart meter. Now, there's another study out of the Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences has identified other serious problems with smart meters, mainly that many of them overcharge customers. More than half the smart meters tested as a part of an experiment were found to be riddled with computational and energy use errors, and in some cases, false readings clocked in as high as 582% beyond actual usage. Now,
wow.
Right behind these were meters that had false readings of 581, 566, and 475% higher readings than the actual amount of energy that was used. So in theory, some customers are being charged 6 times as much as they should be for electricity. So this is why groups, they've also got concerns about the smart meter safety, because there have been reports of the devices suddenly exploding, catching fire. When smart meters are not properly installed, they can cause what's known as arcing, which can lead to spontaneous combustion accompanied by electrical fire. And this is why groups like the American Academy of Environmental Medicine are calling on a total recall of all smart meters until their true effects have been properly studied. The public needs to know the risks before smart meters become so ubiquitous that turning back is no longer a bloody option. So if you want to learn more about smart meters, I suggest that you go and look at smartmeters.news. That's a good place to find. Now, according to a report in the UK Tech News in 2016, smart meter technology is necessary for the smart cities to evolve. And this was reported by the director of the policy and communications at Smart Energy GB. And this is the body responsible for communicating to the public about the smart meter rollout in the UK. Now, this has also been stated in a government report in 2012 for the Department of Energy and Climate, who stated smart metering implementation program. And in one section 1.8, it states smart meters in homes and businesses will sit at the interface between energy supply and demand, helping to modernize the energy industry. Smart meters are a critical part of the platform for the development of a smart grid and demand side measures. So we can see how important it is for the government and industry to implement smart meters as a necessity to implement this new smart city rollout. Okay. Now, I'd just like you to mention something else about the smart meters that maybe people haven't quite understood. Let me just see if I can find it.
Well, it certainly sounds like smart meters are a really dumb idea.
Yes, exactly. Now, the problem also is that according to some experts in the field, they're claiming that the data centers for that are going to be required for all this, all the data that they're going to be collecting, is going to absolutely drain the energy reserves. Now, we know, most of us know, that there's free energy if they wanted us to have free energy.
Yes.
But obviously, the majority of the people don't realise that. So therefore, they are not aware. So what happens is all these data centres are going to be draining all the energy grid, supposedly, which is then going to give the governments and these people the idea to say that we have to have energy quotas. So the energy quota for your area, if you like, or maybe your home or your community, you've used your quota for energy. So now you'll have to do without your energy supply for X amount of hours or days or whatever.
Whatever. Yeah? Oh, gee.
Yeah. So obviously, I've got some stuff on my website about the energy quotas and the fact that they're claiming that the amount of energy that they're going to use is going to cause an energy shortage, in which case they will be then giving us quotas for it. And obviously with the smart meters, they have the ability to just switch you off remotely.
Yep.
So that's
same with the cars, if they decide they don't want you going or doing whatever it is you're going or doing,
yeah,
boom, you're stuck.
Yeah, exactly. So, smart meters are not so smart, are they, after all?
No, none of this smart stuff. It's all exceedingly, well, it's worse than just dumb, You know, it's evil. It's psychopathic.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, if we can get people to say refuse the smart meters, that'll be
That's a good start.
a good start to making people aware of the dangers of it. Now, safety in some smaller houses, smart meters will be located in very close proximity to where people spend a lot of their time, including where they sleep. The electromagnetic frequency safety network this year reported fires, explosions, and burned out appliances, etc., due to smart meter installations. And this was in Australia, Canada, and the US. And in the UK, the 53 million electricity and gas meters are usually located indoors rather than outdoors. So the risks with the fires are far more serious. So, you know, even though you know the facts that we've got health risks, fire risks, security risks, the potential to facilitate the draining of the energy supply while costing the consumer excessive financial costs, government's still trying to force people to accept them and say that they're a good thing. So we know different. And what I'd like to do now is to share the video that I was going to share earlier, which is basically showing you who's behind all this technology. What we've got here is we've got the CIA involvement.
Surprise!
Yeah, and we've also got, you know, the companies who started all this 5G stuff was the Israelis. You know, the Israelis started all the 5G technology, and Qualcomm, who's the biggest microchip company out there, they bought the Israeli companies, and this is where it's all come from. So, but I think it's important for people to see the CIA connection to this. So I just want to quickly share that video because we are running out of time a bit, aren't we?
Well, actually, we can go for as long as you want.
Right. Well, I'll just share this.
Okay, wait a minute. You're not screen sharing.
Right. I'm just going to do this. I just made sure I got it first. So,
okay.
There we go. Thank you, down. Okay, share. Right, I'll just make that.
There you go.
Hello, YouTuber. I'm creating this video today to show how far entrenched this 5G technology is within the security agencies. I'd like to start by correcting a statement that I made. I believe that the ex-director of the CIA, David Petraeus, coined the phrase the Internet of Things. In fact, that phrase was first used by the founder of the MIT's Auto ID Center in 1999, the same year that the CIA created their company, In-Q-Tel, under the then director of the CIA, George Tenet. In 2012, the term was introduced and highlighted by the then director of the CIA, David Petraeus, in a speech at the In-Q-Tel conference. So in this video, I'm going to share research that shows a definite link to the CIA and other security agencies in the In-Q-Tel, the front company for the CIA, involved in the 5G technology. You're going to hear the name David Petraeus quite a lot in this video. In-Q-Tel have financed all the companies involved in everything from nanotechnology, embedded systems, wireless sensing, remotely controlled radio frequency identification, technology that can monitor anyone, anywhere. The companies that collect the data from people using social media, and even companies that develop the batteries in the RFID tracking chips and fridges that are Wi-Fi enabled, all belong to the same company. I'd like to first go back to the speech given by the director of the CIA in 2012, mentions that the application developed by IT will enable a global network of intelligence that items of interest will be located, identified, monitored, and remotely controlled with technology, radio frequency, sensors, and embedded
it's sort of fading out there.
Anywhere.
Is it? Bit, yeah.
IQT, or collecting an analysis of social media feeds.
There we go, that's better.
IQT for being diabolically clever and helping keep the American intelligence community at the forefront of global innovation. So we can see who's at the helm of the 5G technology. The CIA venture capitalist firm that has funded many companies, which many analysts have called a true totalitarian nightmare, monitoring the activities of innocent people on a massive scale. And Business Insider reported in August 2016 that some of the people investing in the CIA's money, or rather the taxpayers' money, to the tune of £100 million a year, were under scrutiny because the board of the trustees, nearly half of them, are connected to the companies that they invest in. Although it's structured as a non-profit company, it means taxpayers' money is being used to create the technology to enslave the public. Now, IQT funds companies and has a classified budget, but reports were in 2005 it gave 37 million to different research companies, but there's no other research existing on the finances. And every IQT company that they start up, they never disclose the amount nor the product produced. But there's some evidence of some companies and what they've produced, of which I'd just like to share with you. This is just a small portion of the many, many companies. Goodness knows how many companies that they actually own or finance. So they bought a spying company called Palantir, Palantir. They bought a company called Infinite Power Solutions, who developed the thin batteries that go in the tracking chips. In 2008, they bought Thingamagic, that makes the chips. You can track out anything. They bought Gainspan, which finds ways to make everything Wi-Fi enabled, from fridges to health monitoring devices. They bought Image Tree Corp, which provides information on illicit crop growing. They bought Fortius One and Geosemble, which map people and places and things instantly. They bought 3VR, which creates video analytics to make surveillance videos Googleable. They bought Recorded Future, which mines websites, blogs, and Twitter to predict the future by making it invisible links, apparently popular on Wall Street. They funded a company to create a skin product that developed a patent for a skin cream that removes a thin layer of skin for DNA collection called Skin Sentient Services. This is just a small number of the vast amount of the companies that they are actually investing in. They also invested in Visible Technologies, FMS, Streambase, all provide products that analyze data from social media and communication sites. Destinia Studies that develop military video games. Sonitus Medical, Subsentio. I mean, the list is just goes on and on and on and on. So we can see exactly who is going to benefit from this new technology and who would benefit from creating the scenarios to enable this technology to be pushed. That's why in my last video I reported that all the places that have been reported as having these attacks are all the very same places involved in this 5G technology and the testing which they need to do using many different departments. So I'd like to turn your attention to this David Petraeus. This ex-director of the CIA was also the commander of the general who was in command of the army, all the military operations appointed by Obama in Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan. It's the same man who was in charge when a £500,000 budget was given to a UK PR firm started by Thatcher's public relations man to falsify images in the media of so-called insurgents, creating fake terror events for media outlets. He's also responsible for using these DVDs created by the CIA to be left in the homes of those falsely accused in Iraq and to influence the public's views on events that were falsified and used as evidence. The same man became senior vice president of the oldest think tank in the world. In the UK, the Royal United Services Institute. He became the senior vice president in 2013. This is the body that dictates the media's presentations of the so-called terror attacks. 2 months ago, he became a director of a private company called Optiv. He has also invested in many cybersecurity firms. But in July of this year, Optiv sponsored and attended the Black Hat USA event, which has been running for 20 years. and is the world's leading information security event, providing attendees with all the information on the latest research and development in the security industry. That event was held at Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas. If this 5G technology is enabled on the scale that they're pushing for, it will have the capabilities that you'd never dreamed possible. And it's being implemented by those whose track records include corruption and murder of innocent people on a massive scale. That's why I'm sharing this PDF file in the link to this from the In Power movement. So we present it to those minions who do the bidding of these evil people to make them responsible in a liability order. To do and say nothing is your consent. And that is consent to the end of freedom as we know it. It will either get worse and their wishes for a totalitarian global agenda will be reached, or it will get better with your help. Download the PDF, present it to those in your area, pushing this 5G agenda. You can do something about this. See, some of us see this, the importance of this particular time in our development as a human race, and spend most of our time to share the research. People like Carl of Enchanted Life Path TV, go and check out his work and hope for truth. The only way that our monitored sharing of research will be worthwhile is if you're willing to stand up for your rights. Okay, thank you for listening. This is Annie Logical. Stay safe. Right. So, oh, hang on, let me stop sharing. I'll get rid of that. Right, so we can see, oh, bit of interference there.
You okay?
Yeah. Is this all right? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, yes.
Right. So, I suppose I've only got a bit more to add really to it, and that's, you know, apart from what they claim it is, and apart from the fact that, you know, how dangerous it is to us, our physiology and you know, all the rest of it, the biggest, most worrying part is it's the capability that they've got to use as a weapons system. I mean, you know, there's so much on the internet now where you can go and check it out. Just have a look at millimeter waves and some of the technology that they've actually got now that this could be used for. Apart from, it could also be hacked into quite easily. You know, it could be hacked into your home. You could be robbed in your own home just because someone can hack into it because of the internet. But apart from that, the capabilities to target and to even euthanize people with electromagnetic waves. They can target whole populations. They can make them aggressive towards each other. They can make them think that they don't need to eat food. You know, this technology has been used in the past many occasions. One of obviously was when they were in Iraq, and they used it on the Iraqi people to make them believe that they all had to
surrender.
That's right. Yeah, they were all like surrender because Allah told them to. You know, this is just ways in which they've known how to use this technology. There's actually patents called remote neural monitoring or brain hacking. There's a patent number 6011991 that's called remote neural monitoring, and there's another one, patent 3951134, which is brain manipulation. So they've got the tools to catalogue your thoughts and communications using electromagnetic waves, and they can target whole populations. They've got facilities to target individuals, and we also know they've got the you know, facilities now where, you know, if you're not towing the line, or if you are saying something, if you're down on their database as being someone who you know, might be speaking out too much, you know, they've got the capability to shut you down. They could, like, well, you can't use anything that we've got. We can't use banks. You can't have any benefits from the government. They could even use their so-called smart cars to basically go and drive you up to the FEMA camps. Something. Who knows? You know, there's you know, this is this geodata could identify. You know, it could claim that you've got a virus and force you into contamination. Into containment. They could eliminate anyone who deviates from the norm. So you know, we're looking at the beginning of something that potentially could be disastrous for
Big
humanity.
time. Big
But
time.
yeah. And so while we've got the opportunity now, we should definitely be taking it. That's why I'm asking people to get involved. You know, what we're doing is, well, what I'm doing is I'm saying to people, you know, you become your own responsibility. Okay, you need to talk to people in your own area and your own community, and just let them know about what's going on. Now, I've gathered all this information on my website, Analogical Uncensored, so that when people get the leaflet, the links there to the website, then they can go on the website and then they can take the time and just find all this information out there, all the links there, all the studies, everything, all the proof that anybody needs to realize that we need to stop this. Now, if we have to stop it by using, you know, the facts about that we don't need, even if we use the facts that we don't need this new technology for better mobile connectivity, which is going to cost a fortune in the long run and are going to cost us a health wise. But we'll use that whatever we can use. If we can talk about smart meters and talk about the fact that they affect your health, you know, they affect your security, and they can affect your, you know, cause damage and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Whatever we can use, we must be using at this point in time, because to sit back now at this stage when we are on the precipice of an absolute disaster for humanity, I think it's unforgivable, really, to anyone who's got any conscience whatsoever or empathy for their fellow human beings. I think it's imperative. So that's why I've come to sort of present this information. I hope that I haven't sort of gone off on tangents too much, and I hope I've kept, you know, to the point, and that people realize that we do need to be doing something in our own areas, in our own communities. It's not rocket science. It's just a matter of talking, speaking up for yourself, yeah, instead of laying down and just taking all of this ridiculous technology that's obviously not going to help mankind, not one bit. So with that, I'll leave it to you, Amy.
Well, listen, Annie, I am just aghast at so many people who cannot see that we have psychopaths in control. And all that you bring is such evidence that this is so, because they're trying to put something that is gruesomely dangerous, gives them essentially total control over us, and is completely unnecessary, with claims that it's going to make our lives glorious, happy, and better.
Yeah.
And if that kind of behavior isn't psychopathic, I don't know what is.
Right. Well said.
You know, it's like, yes, we have evidence now, really good evidence, that there are psychopaths in control.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you being here with us tonight. And just again, to reiterate for any of the listeners, I apologize that I'm not interacting with the chat, but I have discovered that it is having the chat going that is causing my computer to freak out, and the CPU running way past 100, which makes it non-functional. So I have not checked into the chat tonight because I wanted to make sure that this stream was a good one. And so if you've had any questions, comments, or otherwise, they'll show up on the replay on this channel, and I will be able to see them at that time, but I can't see them or respond to them now. Also, I have another announcement that conceivably, I'm not sure, we're still kind of up in the air, but we're probably going to take another CONHWC break. And I'm not sure, again, just like the last time, precisely when we will be back. But I plan to be back. dragging Aaron and Gandalf along.
Right, that's great.
So, Is there anything else you want to discuss or bring up, Annie?
No, I just want to say, thank you to the people for listening. If you want to get involved in any way, you can find me on my website, Uncensored. I've put links up there to the Facebook group, and also I've got my YouTube channel now, which is Logical Annie. So if anyone wants to contact me through any of them, you can do. I just want to say thank you to everybody who's helping the campaign to go forward, and everybody involved. And just thanks for listening, and thank you to Amy. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Hang on after I shut it down. I want to pick up a few links that I want to add to this video. Like your main website and all of that. I want all that in the description. It's not there yet, but it will be real soon now. Anyway, thanks again to all of you, whoever you were in the chat. I appreciate it very much, and I look forward to seeing what you said. Sorry that neither Aaron nor Gandalf could be with us tonight, but we managed to make it through. And it is a little shorter show, but Annie's in the UK, and it's getting pretty late there for her. And I don't want her, having to lack sleep at any point. So, again, thank you, Annie. You are phenomenal. And I am certainly going to be sharing this vid with anyone and everyone that I can think of. And I'd love to send it, get flyers, but I've got no money to create them. So I'm kind of stuck on that.
Yeah.
But, when and if it will happen that I will also be able to give people flyers.
Yeah.
And you all that are listening, you better too.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thank you for listening.
Love always.
And you.